And here with me is Zanny Minton-Beddoes, the economics editor for The Economist magazine. Zanny, rather suddenly, there seems to be a lot of anxiety, even fear. Am I right?
You're absolutely right. Unfortunately, it's the sense of crisis is back, and I would even say the sense that this whole Euro project could fracture is back.
That's serious.
Yeah, I think it's that serious. I mean, if you remember, at the end of last year, the end of 2011, we had a similar moment of real fear in global financial markets. And then the European Central Bank came in and basically poured €1 trillion worth of liquidity into European banks. And that calmed things at the beginning of this year for a couple of months. It led the Europeans to think, to crow, in fact, that they'd solved their crisis. But with hindsight, it turns out that that was, I don't know, an anesthetic, if you will, but that the underlying disease is still there and it's come back with a vengeance.
But it came back almost through a political route, right? I mean, we had all these elections, and now it looks like political disarray as much as economic
Absolutely,
problems.
It's political and economic. I think there are three reasons why this real sense of crisis has come back. The first is political, and it's Greece. The Greek voters basically, in their elections at the beginning of this month, voted overwhelmingly for parties that wanted to renegotiate or rip up or not continue with the austerity package that they'd agreed with the Europeans. And they couldn't form a government. They're now having another election on June 17th. And that's basically turned into, or is going to be a referendum, in effect, on whether they want to stay in the euro or not. And so suddenly from that, there's a fear that actually one of the 17 countries may leave or may be pushed out, really concerning considering others would, is that the beginning of Greece goes, which goes then, Portugal or Spain. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is that on the economic side, the recipe doesn't seem to be working. If you look at the Spanish economy, you've got huge unemployment, 50% youth unemployment. You've got a huge deficit, and the debt problems are getting worse. And I think there's a growing concern that the current recipe isn't working and a disarray about what to do.
All right, well, let me stop you on reason number two, because it sounds like the two sides have formed, right? Germany, which we've heard for a long time, and now you have a representative from France now with a new president saying, wait a minute, there's another route. Now, we just heard in the tape piece a suggestion of maybe a middle or balanced approach, I think, the German foreign minister. Are the two sides hardened here, or is there a sense of some way out?
I think it depends what time frame you're talking about. I think in the short term, there is some room for the two sides to come together. To caricature just a bit, the Germans think that austerity, budget cutting is absolutely the essential thing. And the other side thinks that growth is really important. And I think the Germans are willing to say, we'll have some measures to boost growth alongside our austerity. And so I think what you'll see is some short-term measures, some increase in the capital of the European Investment Bank, a few modest tinkerings to say we're going to have growth and austerity. But there is an area where there's still a very big difference, which is the whole area of euro bonds and the whole area of to what extent do you need to take a big step now to create some kind of mutual fiscal?
Which was on the table a while ago, or at least raised, set aside, this is in the last year or so, but now you're saying is back, potentially.
I think it's back because I think a lot of people have realized that in the medium term, the euro's future depends on having some greater movement towards some more fiscal union. They need, if you will, a kind of Hamilton moment. They need to have some mutual debt issued. Firstly, to give markets confidence that they're really determined to stick with this project. Secondly, to allow indebted governments, the Italys of this world, some means of access to cheaper money. And thirdly, to provide European banks with a safe asset, which is a euro-wide asset.
All right, now I think I stopped you with reason number three. Do you remember? Reason number one was Greece and the politics. Reason two was the economy and the Band-Aid.
Reason number three is politics, and I think the growing sense that European voters are fed up. And the European voters are voting for, more extreme parties. They're voting against the establishment. And this isn't just happening in Greece. This is happening across Europe. Even Angela Merkel, for slightly different reasons, lost in two important state elections in the past few weeks. So I think there's a sense that in a region whose economies are shrinking, where the economic outlook is looking darker, voters' patience with this current route is running out.
And all of this means this thing that we sort of talked about and everybody said could never happen, a member leaving the euro,
it's a very, very
I see
real
people
risk.
Now spinning out how it might happen and when it might
Absolutely.
happen.
And at some point, the risk is that those kind of things become self-fulfilling. If enough people say it can happen, it will happen.
And then the question, as you raised before, what impact, right? Any domino effect that might happen, which is unknown.
Which is unknown. And I think to hold the rest of the currency union together, if Greece does leave, the others, the 16 that remain, will have to take a quantum leap towards greater integration, and they'll have to do it much faster than the Germans now seem prepared to want to do.
All right. Zanny Minton-Beddoes of The Economist, thanks so much.
Thank you.